Hey there YouTube, I'm Bubbins, and as someone who started off my Final Fantasy XIV journey as a Lancer, I've spent a lot of time learning the ins and outs of melee DPS. By no means am I some super pro tier endgame raider who is adept at savages and ultimates, but I like to think I have enough experience to offer new DPS players some tips. So in this video, I just wanted to run down some quick tips or tricks that you might not know if you're just starting off in Final Fantasy XIV. Let's start with the basics, especially because the game uses the terms flank and rear, which at a glance might mean the same thing to you. To be fair, they do usually mean the same thing when it comes to video games. But by definition, flanking is behind a bit and off to the side like it is in Final Fantasy XIV. Anyway, some of your abilities like Chaotic Spring and Wheeling Thrust for Dragoons require you to be behind the target, here. Others like Fang and Claw require you to be in the flank, which is actually off to either side. To maximize your DPS, you want to be in these positions when casting the ability. There is no need to wait on the animation. Because you're frequently bouncing back and forth between these two areas as a melee DPS, it's common for them to stay right where the two zones meet, moving back and forth as needed. I see new players misunderstanding the gaze mechanic a bunch. When an enemy casts gaze complete with an AoE cone or something like that, you do not need to look away unless you're in the cone. The gaze only applies to those within it, usually the tank, who will promptly move out before it activates. If there is no indicator, then yes, look away. But as a whole, you don't need to stop DPSing just to look away. Keep doing damage unless you're in that cone. As a note, if the boss is big enough, make sure to move out of their hitbox. In most cases, being anywhere within it counts as still looking at the boss, even if your character is facing away. Speaking of, the damage and effect of enemy abilities is applied when the cast time finishes and the AoE disappears, not when the animation plays. The second that AoE disappears, you're safe to jump back in and do more damage, even if the actual animation is just starting. Extrapolating that a little bit, it's also true for you. Don't wait on animations to finish playing. Damage is applied as soon as you click the button. If the next ability in your rotation is up, move on. It might not seem like much, but removing 1 or 2 seconds between every ability over the course of a long boss fight or an entire dungeon run can make a big difference. I didn't know this was a thing for the longest time, so chances are new players might not either. See the party list on the top left of your screen? Chances are the tank currently holds aggro, displayed as an A. But should something happen to the tank, the enemy assigns priority based on who is drawing the most enmity, and that is indicated by 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The bar under this shows how close you are to taking aggro, and is a de facto way of seeing how you're doing in comparison to other DPS characters in the party. Of course, the healer will draw attention based on how well they're healing, or if they're reviving, lots of other stuff, but for the most part, the top spots are usually filled by DPS. As a result, you can kind of see how you're doing. Every time you unlock a new skill, I recommend reading the tooltip, and if you're using a guide, figure out where it slots into your rotation or opener, if at all. Every new ability is an opportunity to improve the damage you're doing, and it's much easier to learn a class as you go, rather than waiting to hit a certain point and then learning a whole bunch of it all at once. Ultimately, the good thing about being a new DPS is that it's the least stressful role. If a healer does poorly, the tank or the entire party can die. If a tank does poorly and overpulls, it can cause the entire party to die. If a DPS does poorly, most of the time the fight will just take longer. As someone whose definition of success is simply not wiping, just relax. I don't care how long a dungeon takes, as long as we aren't wiping over and over and over. Focus on learning mechanics, dodging enemy abilities, and going through your rotations as fast as possible. You'll pick up the rest as you go. Those are my quick and dirty tips for new DPS players in Final Fantasy XIV. If you have any other tips for new players, make sure to leave them in the comments below. If you found the video helpful, please make sure to leave a like or subscribe. Super appreciate all of the support. If you want to directly support the channel, there's a Patreon linked in the description below, or you can become a member right here on YouTube. For now though, I think that's it. I'll see you next time.